So why is so little clean drinking water produced when there's so much demand? Why are the methods of production so closely tied to a single source, rain? The answer is that no one profits by producing drinking water. The producer is the state, meaning that the cheapest methods of production are used and the prices are held artificially low as a form of election bribe, thereby encouraging greater consumption than production.
So, who do they think they are, these water authorities? What makes them tick? And why do they see the need to ration such a plentiful resource? How is it that the world can have more than enough oil, hamburgers and Nike, but run short of such a vital and such a plentiful and such a cheap resource? I thought I'd put these questions and more to my local water authority. I thought I'd do that, but it turns out that it made for a very boring interview. So, I made it into a montage featuring news clips and reactions from the Australian news media.
For information on water restrictions, please press 2. If you are buying Level 3 mandatory water restrictions now apply to all customers in Sydney, Blue Mountains and the Illawarra. The following briefly outlines Level 3 restrictions.
Today was supposed to be the day, but as the clock ticks past the deadline for Victoria to sign up to the Commonwealth's $10 billion plan for the Murray-Darling Basin, both sides are saying, well, nothing. The Victorian government has submitted the amendments it wants made to the legislation, and the federal government is going through the paperwork. After months of bickering, the distinct lack of comment is leaving others to look on in confusion, trying to read the signs.
Handheld hosing of lawns and gardens and drip irrigation is now only allowed on the following 2 days, Wednesdays and Sundays, before 10 a.m. and after 4 p.m.
The worst drought in 100 years just won't go away. In fact, nearly 40% of agricultural land in Australia is still in exceptional drought. Has it affected you? Is it just that you can't wash your car with a hose, or you can't water your garden, or has it turned your whole life upside down? For some young people, the drought's changed everything. Being sacked from your job, not being able to go to university, having to spend every spare minute helping on the farm, or just learning to avoid Dad because he's not himself anymore. It seems crazy that all that and more can happen just because it hasn't rained enough, but, you know, that's just the way it is.
Our nation is in the worst time of drought that we have seen for generations. For many, suicide and depression are a very real part of everyday life. Would you please join us in prayer for our land and our farmers? Pray that rain will reach the drought-stricken areas. Pray for our nation's leaders, that they will have wisdom as they lead us through this time. We declare that God is sovereign, and our dependence is in Him alone.
We should all pray for rain, because the situation for the farmers of Australia in the irrigation area of this country, in the Murray-Darling Basin, is critical, and we must all hope and pray there is rain.
Despite rains that caused floods in 2 states and gave grain growers in the east the best autumn break in a decade, the drought isn't over.
Farmers worry the move will cripple their already devastated industry, everything from dairy farms to crops to the wine harvest. Effects of the drought are being felt across the board. It's expected to knock off as much as 1% of Australia's $789 billion economy.
Yesterday, the federal government committed a further $350 million package for drought relief for farmers. The drought is the worst one in 100 years, and agricultural industry is about 3/4 of the water in Australia. So, as the driest continent on Earth, and with the looming threat of climate change, should we reassess what crops are suitable in Australia? Should the industry take the lead and opt out of crops that need a lot of water, like cotton and rice?
Australia has plenty of water while the south's been in drought. Could we use the ocean to even things out? It might sound a bit far-fetched, but one Queensland scientist believes that a scheme to float large volumes of fresh water in plastic bladders down the Australian east coast could work.
No other watering systems or sprinklers are to be used at any time. No filling of new or renovated pools greater than a 10,000 litre capacity, except with a permit from Sydney Water. No hosing of houses.
So something like 750 families per week are moving to Perth, and together with that we've got a reduction in rainfall and a reduction in runoff. So we need more water. We're absolutely running out.
Okay, well the bath, depending on if it's half full, you can use between 50 to 120 litres.
And that helps explain why the Water Corporation turned to the nearby Indian Ocean to help solve its problem.
And it all depends, I guess, on the type of shower and the shower head and so on, but on average you can use anywhere between 40 to 250 litres for an average of 8 minutes.
I hope in the course of listening to this podcast you've seen the solution to the water shortage isn't more state control. The solution is to treat water like any other vital commodity, oil, gas, or hamburgers, and privatise it. Once people can make money by providing water, the floodgates will open. Suddenly water consumption will be good. Desalination plants will be opened, and with them new power plants. Driven by the desire to earn profit, companies will develop and invest in new and wondrous ways of producing clean drinking water. As the exact mechanism for privatisation, we could turn to the Libertarians Party of New Zealand for inspiration. Their policy is to sell the infrastructure off to private interests and use the proceeds from the sale to buy out pensions, thereby compensating tax victims for their years of indenture. In 10 years' time we could look back on this time of artificial water shortages and shake our heads in wonder. In 10 years' time we could look back on this time of artificial water shortages and shake our heads in wonder, just as the citizens of the former East Germany must have done when the shortages of state-controlled commodities like food and automobiles ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall and the return of the means of production to the hands of the productive. Now, from one pleasant thought to another, here's Jennifer.
Thanks, Rick. And don't forget about the Solo Store, which can be accessed by going to www.solopassion.com and clicking the link at the top of the page which says Solo Store. We have a nice selection of items, including our Infidel Gear t-shirts at our Cafe Press store, which allows the wearer to speak out against Islamic fundamentalism and look stylish at the same time. We also have a wide variety of objectivist-oriented books at our Amazon store, including selections like George Reisman's Capitalism. All proceeds from Solo Store purchases go directly towards improving site content on Solo, and we would appreciate it if you would take a look and see if any of the items appeal to you.
Thank you, Ms. Limber. That brings us almost to the very end of another Solo Pilot podcast, and closer to Solo Pilot podcast number 4, which is going to be slightly different, hopefully, in order to reflect what's changed on Solo, which you're no doubt aware of. It seems like we're gearing up for something exciting. We're starting to put out international press releases, we've got new staff, and a new sort of lease on life. We're not in cruise mode anymore. To find out what mode we are in, tune in next time, because I expect to have some insights by then.
Next time on Solo Pilot.
On our next show, I'm expecting to bring to you at last our interview between Lindsay Perigo and William Waddell. The interview that turned Lindsay Perigo into an objectivist. I'm collaborating with Callum McPetrie on this one, and I expect to have it ready for you soon, provided certain persons provide certain audio samples to us. Anyway, this show's over with now. Special thanks to Duncan Bain for helping me put this one together, and of course Jennifer Limber. Show notes and links are available on our home site, solopassion.com. A feed has been made available so that you can aggregate Solo Pilot on your iPod or MP3 player of choice. This has been a Solo podcasting production, Alberta, Canada, June 2007. See you next time.